Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dig deep into a topic that's, well, literally the foundation of all agriculture, soil science. Now, if you're in an ag program, you already know the ground beneath your feet isn't just dirt, right? It's this incredibly dynamic, living system. So, let's go ahead and lay the groundwork for what we'll be covering.
So first up, we'll talk about what soil really is. Hint, it's more than dirt. Then we'll take a quick look at how the science itself took root. After that, we'll get into the two main ways to look at soil, the 6 fields of study, and then we'll wrap it all up by talking about why this all matters for modern agriculture. Sound good? Let's jump in.
All right, Section 1. Soil, more than dirt. Let's get right to it, because our first section really challenges something most of us just take for granted every single day.
So let me ask you this. When you look at the ground, do you just see dirt? It sounds like a simple question, right? But your answer is what really separates a casual observer from a scientist. See, for most people, it's just dirt. You know, the stuff you have to wash off your hands. But for an agricultural pro, it's something way, way more profound.
And here's the absolute key. Soil is a complex, natural body. It has its own history, its own unique properties, its own life. Think of it as this amazing interface between geology and biology. It's a living medium where just countless processes are happening all the time to support plant growth. And honestly, getting that distinction, that's the very first step to mastering agricultural science.
Okay, so how in the world did we get to this complex understanding? Well, as you can imagine, it didn't just happen overnight. So let's take a look at how our knowledge of soil actually grew and evolved into the science we have today. Section 2, a science takes root.
So our story really kicks off way back in the 1600s. You had scientists like Jan van Helmont doing these fascinating experiments, like his famous willow tree study. Get this, he showed that a huge 160-pound tree grew from a pot that only lost a few ounces of soil. Mind-blowing, right? It proved plants were made of more than just earth, and that discovery sparked centuries of questions. By the 1800s, the focus started shifting to the soil itself. What's it made of? Where did it come from? Then, boom, the 20th century hits, and we see modern soil science really emerge with complex classification systems and this super important realization that we have to protect this stuff. We have to conserve it.
Now, as this science was growing up, something really interesting happened. Two totally distinct but equally important ways of looking at soil started to form. Think of it like having two different lenses to look at the exact same thing, and each lens shows you a completely different side of the story. So let's get into Section 3. 2 lenses, a dual approach.
Okay, our first lens is called Pedology. The easiest way to think about a pedologist is like a soil biographer. Seriously, they're interested in the soil just for its own sake. They want to know its origin story, that's Genesis. They want to know how it's related to all the other soils out there, that's classification. And they want to know where to find it, that's mapping. It's a really fundamental nature-first point of view.
And then we have our second lens, Edaphology. Now, if a pedologist is a biographer, an edaphologist is more like a soil nutritionist or maybe a farmer's best friend. Their big question isn't what is this soil, it's what can this soil do for my plants? It's all about practical use, fertility, nutrient supply, and how we can manage it to get the best possible yields.
This little chart here just nails the difference perfectly. So, for the pedological approach, the soil is a natural entity. For the edaphological approach, it's a medium for plants. The focus? One is on genesis and classification. The other is on fertility and productivity. And the goal? For one, it's to understand and map the soil. For the other, it's all about maximizing that crop yield. Think about it like this. A pedologist looks at a floodplain and wants to map the layers of sediment built up over thousands of years. An edaphologist looks at that same floodplain and asks, hey, does this top layer have the right stuff to grow amazing corn this year? It's history versus right now.
So where do these two different ways of thinking actually get put to work? Well, they basically form the foundation for the 6 main fields of study in modern soil science. Let's dive into Section 4 and check them out. Okay, so we've got these 6 main disciplines, and what's cool is how they all connect. It kind of starts with soil fertility. What do plants even need to grow? That immediately makes you ask about soil chemistry. What's the soil actually made of? And soil physics, what's its structure like? How does water move? And you can't forget that soil is alive, which brings us to soil microbiology. Once you know all that, you have to think about soil conservation. How do we protect this incredible resource? And finally, tying it all together is pedology, which, as we know, helps us understand how these soils even came to be in the first place.
And here's where it all clicks together.
Each one of these fields can be looked at from either a pedological or an edaphological perspective. They're not separate buckets of knowledge. Let's take soil chemistry again. A pedologist might be fascinated by the slow chemical reactions that turn rock into soil over thousands of years. Super interesting, right? But an edaphologist? They're studying how adding a specific fertilizer this week chemically changes the soil to make nutrients available to a crop right now. See? Same field, totally different questions and applications.
Which brings us to our last section. And honestly, this might be the most important part for anyone planning a career in agriculture. It's all about bridging that divide. So how do we actually use all this knowledge? So you've got the pedologist, the soil biographer, and you've got the edaphologist, the soil nutritionist. The big question is, who's right? Which one is more important for someone in agriculture? Is it the pure scientist or the practical farmer? And the answer is, you have to be both. It's not a choice. For truly sustainable agriculture, you can't just pick a side. To be a really effective, really responsible ag professional, you've got to integrate both ways of thinking. You need that pedologist brain and that edaphologist brain working together. So why does this matter so much? Well, think about it. The pedological view, that gives you the big picture. It helps you evaluate land and understand its long-term potential and its limits. That's crucial for planning. But the edaphological view, that's what guides your immediate decisions, what to plant, how to manage the soil day to day for the best yield. When you put them together, that's where the magic happens. You get awesome productivity now and real lasting sustainability for the future.
So as you go forward in your studies and eventually into your career, the real challenge isn't just memorizing facts about soil. It's learning how to look at the ground and see it through both of these lenses at the exact same time. The future of feeding our planet really depends on people who can understand the ancient story written in the soil while also writing its next productive chapter. So the final question is for you. How are you going to use both of these lenses to innovate and to help feed the future?